The cold that night was the kind that bit straight through jackets, the kind that made the streetlights look blurry from the frost collecting on their glass. December winds tore down the narrow streets of Ridgeview, a town where folks usually minded their own business, especially after dark. But on the very edge of Maple Street, a small, worn-down rental house glowed with a single warm light. Inside lived Denise Howard, a 38-year-old nursing assistant whose kindness often ran far deeper than her bank account. Denise had just finished another grueling double shift. Her feet ached, her back felt like it was carved from stone, and all she wanted was a hot cup of tea and silence. She shrugged off her coat, hung her badge by the door, and breathed a long, tired sigh. The kettle whistled. Outside, the howl of the wind mingled with something else, something faint. A sound that didn't belong to the storm. A knock. At first, she ignored it. Ridgeview wasn't the type of place where someone knocked at your door past 11 p.m. unless something was seriously wrong. But the knock came again, weak, uneven, almost desperate. She walked slowly toward the door, cautious but curious. Through the peephole, she saw nothing but swirling snow. Another knock, this time softer, followed by the unmistakable sound of a child coughing. Her heart lurched. Denise cracked the door open. And there, shivering on her porch, stood a woman she'd never seen before. A pale, red-eyed woman clutching a little boy against her chest. The boy's lips were nearly blue, and his tiny arms trembled violently. Snow clung to both of them like frost on a dying flower. Behind them, an older man, tall, scruffy, and broad-shouldered, leaned heavily against the porch railing as though he could barely stand. "What on earth?" Denise gasped, pulling the door wider. The woman spoke first. Her voice quivered. Please, we just need a warm place for a minute. My son, he's burning up, and the car heater died 2 towns back." Denise looked at the boy again. His eyelids drooped, his coughing rattled, and his skin looked waxy. Every instinct in her medical training screamed hypothermia. Dangerous, maybe life-threatening. "Get inside," Denise said, stepping aside without hesitation. The woman moved quickly, but gently, carrying the boy in her trembling arms. The older man followed, limping, his boots leaving puddles of melted snow on the hardwood floor. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the boy sagged against the woman's shoulder like he couldn't keep himself upright. Denise shut the door against the wind and hurried over. "Put him on the couch." The woman laid the child down. Denise knelt, touching his forehead and cheek. Hot. Way too hot. The rest of him, though, was ice. "What's his name?" she asked. "Evan," the mother whispered. The man cleared his throat. He looked rough. Leather vest, thick beard, a patched jacket plastered with the unmistakable emblem of the Hells Angels. Denise had only seen it on TV. Up close, it looked intimidating. But she didn't flinch. Right now, he wasn't a biker. He was a father with fear in his eyes. "I'm Mark," he said quietly. "This is my wife, Kelly." Denise nodded but kept her attention on the boy. "He's running a fever, but the cold exposure is what scares me. He needs to warm up slow, not too fast." She stood. "Let me get some blankets." While she moved around the small living room, Kelly wiped tears from her eyes. Mark paced, slow, uneven steps, hands shaking in a way that had nothing to do with the cold. Denise returned with 2 heavy blankets and wrapped Evan carefully, tucking the edges under his small frame. "How long were you out there?" she asked. "Hours," Kelly whispered. "We were headed to see family for Christmas, but the roads, the storm, we hit a patch of ice." Her voice cracked. "Then the car heater died. We tried to push through, but the kid couldn't take no more," Mark finished, his voice rough. Denise handed Kelly a towel for her wet hair. "Why didn't you go to a motel?" Mark shook his head. "Closest one's 20 miles back. We thought we could make it to Ridgeview before the kid got too cold." Denise poured 2 glasses of warm water and handed them over. "Well, thank God you landed on my porch." Kelly blinked at her. "We didn't pick your house by accident. We saw your light. It was the only one on." Denise shrugged gently.
Sometimes insomnia and double shifts have their perks. They shared a tired, grateful smile.
As Evan's breathing steadied, Denise felt a wave of relief. She checked his pulse again, stronger now, but they still needed better warmth than her worn-out furnace could offer.
You all can stay as long as you need, she said. Storm's only getting worse.
Kelly's eyes widened.
We can't put you out like that.
You're not putting me out, Denise replied. You're keeping my house company. Mark stared at her, stunned.
People didn't usually open their doors to bikers. They crossed the street. They avoided eye contact. But this woman, this stranger, had taken them in without a second thought.
Why? He asked quietly. You don't know us. Denise looked at the child on her couch, and then at the two shivering parents.
I know enough, she said. I know a family in trouble when I see one. The wind screamed outside, rattling the front windows. But inside, for the first time in hours, warmth began to settle. Not just from the heater, but from something deeper, something human.
Mark sat gingerly on the edge of a chair, still watching Evan like the boy might vanish if he blinked.
You ain't afraid of the patch on my back? He asked suddenly.
Denise smirked.
Honey, I've worked night shifts at a hospital. I've seen worse than leather jackets.
Kelly let out the tiniest laugh. The room felt a little lighter. But none of them, especially Denise, knew the full weight of what she'd just done. Taking in a freezing biker family wasn't just an act of kindness. It was an act that would send shockwaves through Ridgeview. And in a few short days, those shockwaves would roar down her street on dozens of thundering engines. But tonight was simply about warmth. And saving a child. Morning crept in slowly, pushing away the storm's darkness with a pale gray light that leaked through Denise's thin curtains. The wind had finally calmed, leaving a glassy stillness over Maple Street. Denise woke first, though she'd barely slept, just short bursts of rest between checking on Evan's temperature and listening for his breathing. Years of nursing had trained her to wake at the smallest sound, and motherhood, though she'd never had children of her own, lived somewhere in her instincts. She slipped out of her small bedroom, still in the scrubs she hadn't bothered to change out of, and walked down the hallway. Her house wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a kitchen barely large enough for 2 people to stand in. But this morning, it felt strangely full, warmer than it had in years. Evan lay curled on the couch beneath the blankets she'd layered over him. His cheeks were pink now instead of ghostly pale, and his breathing was steady. Kelly had fallen asleep sitting on the floor beside him, her head resting on the edge of the couch, her fingers still wrapped around her son's tiny hand. Mark slept in the old armchair near the window, arms crossed over his chest. He snored softly, his boots still on, his leather vest draped over the armrest. It was peaceful, unexpectedly peaceful. Denise went into the kitchen and started the coffee pot. As the smell filled the room, she heard stirring behind her. You really don't sleep much, do you? Mark's voice came low and gravelly. She turned to see him rubbing his eyes, his hair sticking up in every direction. Without his intimidating posture, without the leather and the scowl, he simply looked like a tired father who'd carried the weight of the night on his back. Not when a kid's sick in my house, she said. He nodded slowly. How's he looking? Much better, she said, pouring him a cup of coffee. Fever's dropped, color's back. He'll be weak today, but he's out of danger. When she handed him the mug, he took it with both hands, almost reverently. You saved him. She shrugged. I did what anyone decent would do. Decent ain't common, he said. Before she could respond, Kelly woke with a startled gasp. Her first breath was panicked, her eyes darting around, until she saw her son breathing calmly beside her. Relief washed over her in a wave so strong she covered her mouth with her hands and cried silently. Denise knelt beside her. He's okay, sweetheart. Kelly nodded, brushing hair from her face. I don't know how to thank you. You just did, Denise said softly. Evan stirred then, blinking groggily. Mommy. Kelly leaned forward instantly. I'm here, baby. You're okay. He reached out weakly for her, and over her shoulder, Denise caught Mark's expression. The man who had walked onto her porch last night looking half frozen and twice as desperate was now blinking back tears. Denise stepped away to give them space. B.O.W. An hour later, the family sat around her tiny table eating the simplest breakfast she could offer: eggs, toast, and fruit. But the way they ate made her feel like she'd prepared a feast. Evan sat wrapped in a blanket, nibbling slowly. His cough was still there, but softer now. Denise set his plate in front of him gently. "You got a good appetite," she said with a smile. "That's a great sign." Mark nodded toward the blankets around the child. "Kid ain't felt warm like that in a long while. We've been on the road a lot. Club stuff, family stuff." He paused. "Money's been tight." Denise read between the lines. Jobs lost. Maybe bad luck. Maybe worse. Life didn't care about patches or reputations. It hit everyone the same. "Well, you're here now," she said. "That's all that matters." Kelly reached across the table and squeezed Denise's hand. "You saved our family. I'll never forget this." "It was just one night," Denise said. "No," Mark said firmly. "It weren't just one night. Folks cross the street to avoid us. They lock their doors when they see the patch. But you let us in." Denise let out a soft laugh. "I didn't let a biker in. I let a freezing mother and child inside. The vest didn't matter." Mark stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. Slow, appreciative, almost reverent. End of 2009. The storm had blocked the roads with thick drifts of snow. No one was going anywhere soon. Mark tried to leave to check on their car, but Denise stopped him at the door. "You'll break your neck out there," she warned. "Snow hasn't been cleared yet. You can check later." He scowled, partly because he wasn't used to being told no, but he knew she was right. So they stayed. By afternoon, the living room felt almost like a home shared by an odd, mismatched family. Kelly folded the blankets neatly and helped Denise wash dishes. Evan colored quietly with some old markers Denise dug out of a drawer. And Mark, who clearly wasn't used to sitting still, fixed a loose cabinet hinge in the kitchen, reattached a curtain rod that had been crooked for months, and then repaired a porch step outside once the snow stopped. "You don't have to do all that," Denise told him. "Yeah," he grunted, hammering a nail in place. "But I ain't the kind of man who sits around while someone else does all the helping." She smiled at that. "Fair enough." Hours taste him, up team. In the late afternoon, the sun dipped behind thick winter clouds, and a soft quiet fell over the neighborhood. Mark sat on the porch, staring out at the street, sipping the last of his coffee. Denise joined him with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "We'll head out tomorrow," he said, not looking at her. "Once the road's clear." "You sure Evan's up for that?" she asked. "We'll take it slow," he said. She nodded. A long pause stretched between them. Comfortable, easy. "You really ain't scared of me?" he asked quietly. Denise let out a gentle sigh. "You keep asking that." "Well," he pressed. She tilted her head. "Mark, I saw a father freezing half to death trying to keep his kid alive. That told me everything I needed to know." He swallowed, hard. "You're different," he said. "People don't treat us like people. They treat us like trouble waiting to happen. Everyone deserves a warm place on a cold night." Mark rubbed his palms against his jeans. "I'm gonna repay this, somehow." "You don't owe me anything," she said. But he shook his head with finality. "No, you don't understand. In my world, gratitude ain't just a feeling. It's a promise." Denise didn't realize it then. Not fully. She didn't see the way his jaw set, the way something fierce and loyal sparked behind his eyes. But she would. Because a promise made by a Hell's Angel wasn't a small thing. It was the kind of promise that echoed across miles and rolled in on thunder. And within days, her quiet street would tremble under the weight of it.